Sawati. Today we will talk about scientific method, each step and how it works. Grab your papers and pen. Let a scientific moment begin. If you're ready, let's dive in. What is scientific method? Scientific method simply means a systematized and organized process of solving a scientific problem. Observe in scientific method simply means using of senses. Yes, your 5 senses. By using your senses, you can tell if it's raining outside, or if the food you ordered tastes great, or if you're listening to music, if you feel pain, or just by simply watching this video. It's observing. In observing, you can tell what is an existing problem. And if you recognize the problem, just by asking questions about something you observed, that's when the scientific method starts. How, what, when, who, which, why, or where. It's observing, and that's the first step in scientific method. The second step is research. Research is simply reading journals, internet websites, magazines or books about the problem you observed. Your problem might be experienced by others in the past, and by knowing how they address this problem, you're doing a research. Research helps you to find the best way to do things and ensure that you don't repeat mistakes from the past. Asking experts is a form of research. The more you know about a subject or topic, the easier it will be to conduct your investigation. The third step in scientific method is hypothesize. Hypothesis might be a new word for you, but it simply means educated guess. A hypothesis is an educated guess about how things work. It predicts the outcome of an experiment. It is an attempt to answer your question with an explanation that can be tested. In writing hypothesis, you can follow this format. It is called if and then statement because hypothesis is meant to be written as a prediction. Another thing, make sure your prediction is easy to measure. The fourth step is experiment. It means designing and performing an experiment to test your hypothesis. An experiment has variables. A separate video below will be about variables. Watch it after this one and make sure to consider them in your experiment. Your experiment tests whether your prediction is accurate and thus your hypothesis is supported or not. It is important for your experiment to be a fair test. You conduct a fair test by making sure that you change only one factor at a time while keeping all other conditions the same. You should also repeat your experiments several times to make sure that the first results weren't just an accident. The fifth step is analyze. What is analyze? Analyze means to study or determine the nature and relationship of the parts of something. Once your experiment is complete, you collect your measurements and analyze them to see if they support your hypothesis or not. What are the things you do in analysis? First, record observations and analyze the meaning of the data. Often, you'll prepare a table or graph of the data. Don't throw out data points you think are bad or that don't support your predictions. Some of the most incredible discoveries in science were made because the data looked wrong. Once you have the data, you may need to perform a mathematical analysis to support or refute your hypothesis. The sixth and last step in scientific method is conclude. Conclude means judgment on the basis of evidences. It also discusses the overall results of an experimental procedure and explains whether the proposed hypothesis at the beginning of the experiment was correct or not. In this step, you are already presenting the results of your experiment. And in presenting your results, make sure your bases are based on facts or strong evidences. In this step also, you will reveal whether your hypothesis is accepted or rejected. Remember that the purpose of scientific method is to see whether your hypothesis is correct or not. If your hypothesis is wrong, it doesn't mean you're wrong. In this way, you can see what part of the experiment that needs to be corrected. Sometimes, these mistakes will lead to a new idea that will help your experiment. It can also be discussed in the conclusion. Further experiments or tests that could be done to support your findings in the current experiment. This part could also be called perspectives or recommendations. Those are the steps in scientific method. I hope you learn a lot in this video. This is my first video on YouTube, and if you find this video interesting, give this video a thumbs up and please subscribe for more science content. Adios.